What up? It's your boy, Incredible, man. And yes, I am finally back. And I got to apologize right off rip, man, because I was super sick and that put me behind. And in case you guys didn't know, I have another channel. So it kind of just threw my whole schedule out of whack. So now I'm trying to catch back up. And this is 911 Season 4, Episode 11, man. Let's get into it because it was boss. What I mean about this episode being boss is because normally there's a life lesson or moral lesson to learn in each week, in each episode, but this week it was something knowledgeable, and that is the fact that I didn't know that 911 dispatchers aren't considered first responders. And then Buck gave us this whole little brief history while talking to Taylor about it, which I'll talk about that later as well. That, even in California they weren't called first responders, I think, until like 1984 or 85. So that was nice, man. I never knew that. I just assumed they were first responders. I mean, because they're on the front lines, they're taking all of these calls in these dangerous situations. Sure, they're not there physically, but they have to be in that situation with these people. So I just assumed they would all automatically had always been first responders. I never knew that. So that's a nice little history lesson for you, man. But this episode revolves around Sue Blevins, the call center's head honcho lady, being hit and ran over by well, not ran over, but being hit and run by this car. And we don't really see why it happened until like towards the end of the episode, but after we done solved pretty much the case. But it led up to the fact of this young girl being kidnapped, and I like how they tied everything together, if you will, because we see that Sue's husband is shopping and picking up groceries, and he sees some flowers, and he decides to buy his wife flowers. But Sue is on the phone with someone, and she sees something happening, and she rushes over, and the car just bombards her and keep on going. Now, everybody arrives on scene and was like, well, I know her. That's Maddie's boss. That's Sue Blevins. Like, everybody knows her because, they had instances where they had to come in contact with her. So they know who she is. And this dude just like ran over Sue completely, man, with this hit and run. Now, throughout the entire episode, we see that Buck ends up talking to Taylor, and I love their whole relationship. Like, I know that like they were having like this friends with bennies type thing going on, and they weren't legitimately friends, but now we see that they're actually starting a budding friendship, and we're going to see probably how it works out from there. But I like their whole connection because Buck really needs that solid foundation and someone that's going to really hold on to him, and someone that can really just be there for him, and someone he could be there for. And I feel like Taylor gives him that. And sure, they kind of started their relationship backwards, with like friends with bennies, and now they're trying to do like an actual friendship thing. But I feel like it benefits both of them, and I really enjoy them in this situation, and I enjoyed seeing them work together this episode to really help solve Sue's case as well. But we see that all of this stuff leading up, and we see that Athena's on call, and she ends up coming into this whole little dispute with this lady who's about to attack this dude outside of his car with a baseball bat, and it all just ties into the same main plot of the story, which is who hit Sue and everything. So they're trying to find this out, and Athena comes across the case file, and the case file is empty, and the mother is all upset. There's a lot of stuff going on because no one's taking her serious because they think her daughter just ran away because she's another black woman, and they're not treating the case like they actually should had it been like a white girl missing for 24 hours or 48 hours. It depends, whatever. But if she was a white girl, like Athena said, it would be all over the news. And Athena was kind of upset about that. And sure, they brought that into the story, and that's legitimately how it works in society nowadays. Like, if you're not, I hate to say it like that, but it just is what it is. And one thing that I loved is like they didn't really just hammer you over the head with it. They put it out there, put that subtlety in there, and kind of just let it float in your mind a little bit. It was like, well, is that really true? Like, is that something that actually happened? It is. It's sad, but that's actually something that happens. So we see that like one of the head detectives ends up working with Athena to actually solve the case because Athena made this promise to this lady to help her at least look into the situation. Because at the same time, we see that Athena is kind of dealing with something going on with May, because May wants to live on her own now. May wants to move out, be an adult, and live out on her own. And we see that she comes up with this whole scripted plot to kind of, yeah, you guys are great parents, and and her dad and Harry and all of them, okay, well, you're gonna move out, cool. and they weren't really too keen about it, but Athena gave her the okay. Even Bobby was surprised, and Hen. Nobody really just believed that Athena was like okay with it because we know Athena. But we see that this episode, Athena's dealing with something because of her last conversation with her and May about how May's interacting with the bully when the bully almost led May to actually kill herself. So Athena's trying to change how she interacts with May on that level because she doesn't want to come across like how her mother came across to her when she decided to be a cop and not go to college. So we see like that whole transition going on there, and I feel like that's what really made Athena take on this case to try to help this mother because she's going through something with her daughter right now, and it kind of just because May's going out into the real world on her own and she doesn't, I feel like her solving this case would kind of ease her pain a little bit while dealing with the situation with May. Now, I love the fact that like everything kind of tied in together. So we see Athena's on the case working with this other detective. We see Buck and Taylor trying to solve the case, and we see a backstory for Josh. Now we never knew how Josh actually got interested in the 911 dispatch. We never knew that. So like 4 seasons in, and we're finally getting Josh's backstory, and we see that he was a stenographer, freelance, but a stenographer, and I feel like we definitely saw his skills this episode. So Buck and Taylor pretty much unwrapped the case a little bit on their own, and while Athena and the other cop, I think his name was what was his name? They showed him a couple times before, but I can't remember his name. But anyway, they are working on the case, and both of them come to a nice conclusion because Athena ends up spotting the dude drug the girl on camera at this casino, and we see that Buck and Taylor kind of solve it from the security footage from the supermarket. Yeah, they was at a supermarket, I think. So like it ends up meeting like right there in the middle, and Buck was like, I got gloves in the car. We can go check out this dumpster, see what he dumped and everything. So we get there and it kind of just resolves and meets right there in the middle between Athena and Buck, and they both kind of solve the case at the same time. And then Buck kind of remembers what Sue was saying when they arrived on the scene. And I feel like the whole episode kind of just tied into that, and I loved it. Like it all just meshed together. There wasn't a lot of side stories or anything like that going on this episode. This one episode revolved kind of around everything together, if you will. But like I said, with the backstory about Josh, we got to see how he was, who he was before, and him being a stenographer really paid off because in this episode, once they tracked down the dude's license plate number and they put like the bolo out and they put his license plate on blast and the color of car all over the state of California. They were just putting it out there, well, in the city anyway. And did she say the state? I think she said the state. But like they put it out, and all of these people, they're getting around all these calls. Well, I think I saw the car. So they finally found the car, like a shipping container yard or whatever. So they get there and the police are filling it out, trying to find them, and then they find the girl in a shipping container, and they can't find the suspect. But then next thing you know, a bunch of police flood the scene. Firefighters, paramedics, everybody, which is the 118, they flood the scene and everything. They get there, they start to save the girl, but they can't find the suspect. And where it comes in as Josh being a stenographer and his years of 911 listening to people and stuff, like it came in heavy because we see him in like the flashbacks, and we see how him and Sue had that connection. We see him saving someone in the flashback, and we jump to the present and see him actually helping in the present with the 911, as a dispatcher, talking to the police and the firefighters. And his stenographer came in because he's just typing stuff left and right, and like they tried to get air support, they couldn't. They tried to get SWAT, nobody was going to reach there in time before they actually got the suspect. So Josh just came in headstrong, man. So like if Sue ever decides to retire, Josh is definitely the next one in line to kind of just take over, man, because we could see that whole leadership mentality take place while he was helping out in this episode on this particular case, because we know it meant so much to him because it was for Sue, because this dude hit Sue in the hit and run. And I feel like the entire thing, man, like the way it just kind of just wrapped up all together. We see all the people at the 911 dispatch center, rallying around trying to help Sue in that moment, in the heat of the moment, because they were so upset that this dude had done that to her, and like everybody was on pins and needles trying to capture this dude, and Josh was just going ham, man. It was like, yes, 519 Adam, go this way, that right direction, shipping container number 92. Josh was on it, man. So we see like the stenographer in him and the part where he was listening, and it all played a part. So like the flashback tied into Sue tied into Josh, everything that happened to Sue in the present, The dude with Hit and Run tied into Athena's actual life going on with everything that's going on with May, tied into, like, it felt so good, man. It all just tied together with this episode. Normally there's a couple cases and everything's a little separate, or everybody has their own personal thing going on, but everything just kind of meshed together for this episode, and it was legit. We also see that May ended up, she still wanted to move out, and Athena gave her blessing, but she had some rules and regulations. She needs to stay off of a balcony. She has a whole bunch of rules. She's gonna have to check out her building manager and all that other stuff. So I like the fact that Athena's trying to change a little bit so she doesn't become her mother to May. And I feel like that's definitely a step in the right direction for Athena as well, to see their whole relationship change like that. And we see that Josh and Sue have a nice, wonderful relationship. And I just love it, man. This episode was legit. It wasn't too much going on, but it all tied in together. And I really, really love that, man. I think that's everything. I think I covered everything. At the end of the episode, we also see that Buck and Taylor kind of have their moment of celebration because her boss gave her some champagne, and Buck is thinking that, well, congratulations, you might be up for a promotion. And she's like, that's not why we're celebrating. We're celebrating because justice was served. And I feel like that's what makes her a good reporter. She's not chasing her next story. It's not about fame for her. It's about justice being done. And Buck, that put a smile on Buck's face. Like, this episode was legit, and I just loved everything about it. And I can't wait to check out the next episode. I'm gonna go do that now, man. This is what incredible, man. Don't forget to smash the like button until you can't smash. You need more. Comment down below, and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them and subscribe, but only if you really want to, man. Peace out. I cannot complain because today, I'm doing